tonight's session with a verse. Yeah. So tonight's sharing is about how to achieve individual health and community well-being. And our guest, very honorable guest speaker is Dr. Michaela, which I will introduce later. Okay. This is the verse that has inspired a lot of work of Kongsi Co-op. So I'd like to share this verse with you tonight. In a community of human beings working together, the well-being of the community will be the greater, the less the individual claims for himself, the proceeds of the work he has done himself. That is, the more of these proceeds he makes over to his fellow workers, the more his own requirements are satisfied. Not out of his own work done, but out of work done by the others. Okay, before we start, I'd like to do a quick introduction because some of you may not have heard about Kongsi and Kongsi Academy. This is the session organized by Kongsi Academy. Kongsi Academy is under the umbrella of Kongsi Co-op. Yeah, Kongsi Co-op is a newly formed cooperative for the consumers in Malaysia. And the work for preparing this co-op started since June last year. And Kongsi's vision, which we have drawn up with a group of people that initiated these ideas, is that Kongsi connects people, soil, and nature to co-create a harmonious ecosystem. Yeah, so Kongsi has initiated also a weekly meetup every Thursday, and for tonight is a special night. Yeah, so we managed to connect with Dr. Michaela for tonight, and every week we meet together. We call it Kongsi Ideas to exchange ideas and co-create together. Yeah. And I'd like to welcome my teacher. She's now online. Hello, Dr. Michaela.
Hello, Kelly. So good to see you.
So good to see you. Yeah. I will do an introduction and then we will start.
Yes.
Okay. And Joanne is here. You can't see her.
Hi, Joanne.
Yeah. So we're very, very look forward to tonight's exchange. And Kongsi Academy, I'd like to bring a little bit of background to Kongsi Academy. Kongsi Academy basically is inspired by our learning throughout our years of with Dr. Michaela and a lot of our teachers in IPMT Malaysia and also Jalisco Conference in 2015. So since 2013, this is like a but that is finally we have a concept that we can bring to our community here. So it's Kongsi Academy is founded based on the principles of pedagogy outlined by Rudolf Steiner. And that is to inspire lifelong learning for all ages, to fully unfold one's unique potential and cultivate a culture of self and community leadership for the development of humanity. Sounds like a big thing, but this is a vision that we have, and we like to, co-create with our community. So this is basically the foundation for our the academy, the work of the academy. And what is our aspiration? That is more down to earth, right? That we strive to realize the picture that in every family there could be a a biodynamic gardener, a Waldorf teacher, and also a nutritionist and a caregiver. Yeah, so everyone could be one. Yeah, so this is what we hope to achieve, and of course there are others as well. So essential skills and all these practical skills are the core of Kongsi Academy. And coming back to tonight's sharing, so how it started was throughout the our exploration of a consumer cooperative, we came across this book written by Gary Lamb, based on the work of Rudolf Steiner on threefold social order. Okay, so this is the book that has inspired us to think further how we can put this threefold social order into practice and into our practical life. Yeah, so in here we have right now in Kongsi Academy, we have 2 text study groups going on at the same time, one on the English text and the other one on the Mandarin text. And also that is the key reason why we felt that it's the right time to invite our dear teacher, Dr. Michaela, to share with us her view and her experience of how this could be put into place in our day-to-day practical life. This is our teacher. So Dr. Michaela has, I met Dr. Michaela in 2011 through Dr. Joanne. Yeah. And my first encounter with her was a very, I would say, a very warm heart opening to see that, you know, her intention of bringing this human development education to around the world. Yeah, and I remember having a conversation with her about the time that we were starting IPMT, which is a medical training, and she said very firmly that, you know, because Malaysia is a new country that's starting IPMT program, and she would like us to include education and also biodynamic agriculture in our IPMT. Yeah, and I remember asking her, so if I'm not a farmer and I'm not a teacher, and also if I'm not I'm also not a doctor, so what would be a, you know, the suitable workshop for me? And so she asked me, so what do you do for you know, in your daily life? So I say I run a business, and she said you know, spontaneously that if you can bring a few business people together, I will facilitate a business workshop for you for Malaysia. And that was the first time that I encountered there is such thing called anthroposophic business. And so true enough, yeah, we had a very first business workshop in 2013 in IPMT Malaysia, and she said that was I remember her telling us that that was the first for the world. Yeah, and I was there for a week with Dr. Michaela as our coach, facilitator, and during the workshop, there is a few new concepts to me that has kind of opened up my thinking that, you know, the way to run a business and the way to work with the community. Obviously, during those days, it's still a far way to how, you know, to putting it into practice. But the concepts that stayed with me since 2013 was threefold social order. You know, how a community could develop harmoniously and taking care of everyone's development, individual as well as community, if we can have a balanced threefold social order, which is our rights life, cultural life, as well as the economy. So the cultural life is very much about the education, the arts, and festivals, etc. So during the week, we explore these 3 aspects of threefold social order. And in that year, I remember one word that stuck with me was brotherhood. And that was the word that kind of brings a lot of warmth that I felt. If we can have an economic life that is based on brotherhood, then a lot of things could happen. That was my sparks during in 2013. So throughout this years, I guess how Kongsi has developed was also a fruit of this seed that was planted in Malaysia. So today I'm very, very happy and very, very honored that Dr. Michaela is here to share with us about, this. You can hear from her, personally, about this threefold social order and how this is not a utopia. So is something that can be practiced and it can happen, and in our lifetime. So with that, I would hand over to Dr. Michaela. And Dr. Michaela, there is a simultaneous translation. Yeah, are you okay with that?
If you can cope with it, but for me it's easier if I hear only one voice. But if while I'm talking, someone else is talking as well, then I'm listening to the other person.
Yeah, you won't. Yes, you won't be able to hear because the Sijin is in the interpretation room. So you will only be speaking English and she will translate your words into Mandarin for the Mandarin speaking group.
Yeah, but if I am talking too fast, then I'm happy if she just comes back, because it makes no sense if she then just transports words and the meaning is getting lost because I talk too fast. So
okay,
I hope we will make it.
Okay, we will make it. Thank you. So over to you.
But I cannot see you anymore. That's interesting. Something changed with my screen.
Can you not see?
See me?
I can see you, yes. And
you can see me. Okay, then it doesn't matter.
You are already being spotlight, so you are now the speaker.
Okay, I cannot see anything, but I speak in trust that you see me and that you hear what I want to share. Dear Kelly, thank you so much for inviting me, and congratulations for your academy. And I'm really deeply touched how the anthroposophic work is moving on in Malaysia. Because, now we have in Europe this horrible war between Russia and Ukraine. And it makes so clear with all these side effects how important it is that such a word like social order or brotherhood, what you said, that these words are really understood, that, to have words is one, but to bring the meaning of words into your heart so that it can become reality, that is something so different. And in times of pandemic, of hunger, of war, of all sorts of conflicts, the power makers need to do, because they have no other vision for their international corporations, then the real question is for us as individuals, what does this mean to us? Because for me, these problems we have right now were again a huge wake-up call, and I observed it widely in my environment, that these conflicts, these problems, the energy crisis, the financial crisis, that all that brings now a question to the people, why do we need that? What does that mean? In what time do I really live? I thought we live in peaceful modern times. And now we are in the midst of international conflicts. And that is, on the one hand, very sad, but on the other hand, I learned from Kongsi something I'm happy to share right in the beginning with you. There are 3 ways of learning. One is easy, and that is learning through imitation. The second is painful, and that is learning through experience, out of experience. And the third is difficult, and that is learning through insight, through real understanding. And this difficult way is, of course, the anthroposophic way, because we try to understand what is the reason for all these anti-social behaviors we can identify, all these shadow sides from egocentrism. We try to understand, and then out of this understanding, engage ourselves for a change. My theme you gave me is how to achieve individual health and community well-being. And as a medical doctor and pediatrician, I learned quite a lot about individual health. And I just summarize some main aspects, how to achieve individual health. First is that we understand the human constitution. So on the one hand, we are part of evolution. We are just coming out of the natural development together with our fellows, minerals, plants, animals, humans. We have a huge history. But our planet, the Earth, is part of the sun system. And for example, I need for the building of my bones the sun in order to help my organism to produce vitamin D. And the sun is the time giver, the life giver for the plants. All the life energy comes from the sun. So I cannot think individual health, even not on the physical level, without widening my view into the cosmos, into the rhythms of sun and moon. And then I understand, I have also a 24-hour clock. I have monthly rhythms in my rhythmic organization. All healing is going in rhythms. So just a little reflection on the fundament of health, on my nature of my body, shows me my body is part of my earthly environment. My earthly environment is totally integrated into the sun system, and the sun system is integrated in a huge macrocosmos. And there are many, many beautiful fixed star formations. And when I study these forms of the fixed stars, then I can find all these geometrical constellations and points and forms in the whole variety of the forms of the plants, the minerals, the animals. So that is one aspect. And we all know that our physical organization is open to the environment and is vulnerable by bad nutrition, dirty water, polluted air. So we have to care for the fundament of our health by caring for our environment, for our physical environment, so that our physical body and the physical environment are coming into a healthy balance. And Joan, who is part of this evening, she knows a lot about that and is a great teacher in that. And I'm sure most of you, or even every one of you, know her. And biodynamic agriculture and all what we try to do for healthy life of plants and animals. It also has, of course, a side effect, a positive side effect for individual health, because on this next level, we have lifestyle, we have rhythm of nutrition, of sleep, we have work-life balance. You know, even if we only care for a healthy environment, but if we don't care for the life-carrying rhythms, and if we just live chaotically and do not care for this time and life structure our body has, then we have many possible health problems which can occur just by not caring for a healthy lifestyle. So our constitution is part of the space environment, and then the next level of our constitution is part of the time and rhythm environment. And then we have a third level, and this is about soul experience, feelings, human relationships. We cannot remain healthy if we live in constant fear, stress, and soul pressure, being not harmoniously in communication with our human environment. And a fourth level of our health is that we realize I am an individual. But what does this mean? You know, when we are 3 years old, 4 years old, we start for the first time really to discriminate ourselves from the environment, and we realize I am I. And then around 9, 10 years, we feel what it means that I'm I. And that is mostly a painful experience of loneliness. And around 15, 16, there is another I am quality experience we have, and that is that we realize, wow, I have responsibility for my actions, for my words. I am co-responsible for my environment. I have to stand for what I did. And that is the moment when this inner voice of conscience is really awakening. And it's the same time when our frontal brain is maturing and self-control starts, and we have left puberty behind us and grow adult. But what does it mean to have a real adult's identity? That means that I ask myself, where is my autonomy? Am I a total depending being on my hereditary, on my family, on my environment, on my duties, on all the dear, loved, or also unloved challenges and musts I have to go through? who am I? Why do I have to cope with all this? You know, many people, they just give up to find themselves and they say, oh, wow, I'm part of life. I just go with the mainstream. I don't think about it. Who am I? What is the meaning of my life? What is the meaning of my destiny? Do I have a destiny, or is it all accident? These existential questions are extremely relevant for modern mind and consciousness, because Rudolf Steiner developed one vision about modern time which helped me a lot. He said materialism is on the one hand a disaster because it reduces our worldview to matter and to the uniqueness of one life. And when I have such a reduced mind, then I'm just looking for my own purposes. And then I go the path of egoism. That is total, clear and understandable if I have such a reduced mindset. But the positive aspect of this reduced mindset of materialism is that I experience my autonomy. Autonomy means this experience that I'm not guided by authorities, even not by the divinity. Just follow. But that there is a stop, that there is a transition, that there is an experience of freedom, even if it is an experience of existential nothingness, that I feel like in an abyss or like hanging in the air, not supported. You know, Rudolf Steiner wrote a beautiful philosophy of freedom, philosophy of autonomy. And there he raises in the beginning the question, is there one point in my mind which is so safe and sure that I can build all my life and all my further activities on that point, because it is a self-stabilizing point, independent from the visible and invisible demands. And that is this beautiful and painful experience. I am a self-depending, autonomous person. I am an individual. What do you mean when you ask me to talk about how to achieve individual health? What is the individuality? So when we really grow adult, then each of us has, to a certain extent, had this experience of utmost nothingness and loneliness when we felt we have to make the decision for what we want to invest our own life, our destiny. What is really essential for me? What is my life's goal? What is my life's ideal? What is the star of wisdom or the divinity I commit my life because it is my really own self-found decision. And those who know me, they know that my life ideals I found in this situation are threefold: healthy thinking, healthy observation, and healthy mindset. What is that? It must be truth-oriented. Because what is health? Health is if all the functions in my body are okay, are in best cooperation, are in balance. And truth shows how things are connected and in best balance. I only see a doctor if something is wrong and not if everything is true and okay with me. So mental health, and to make the best use of my spiritual forces, my thinking and my observation faculty, that is in the same time mental health giving. And in all languages and in all cultures where we adore divinities or God, for us, God is the truth. So when we try to become honest and truthful, then we approach the highest level of insight we can reach. Then we can really enter into spiritual encounters. And the second life ideal is love, the warmth of our heart, this empathy for my environment, of course, as well for myself, this respect that this life and this body and these possibilities are given to me in order to bring myself into a most fruitful and loving interaction with my environment. And love is the most healthiest feeling we can have. And all the antisocial drives are, when we interpret this positively, wake-up calls to learn different ways of interest, of love, to develop more empathy for our environment when we see many people or the earth suffering, being harmed. And the third ideal associated to my will forces, my activity, that is autonomy, not only for me, but also for others. And that is this level of brotherhood. My brother is as on his way to develop his true humanity as I am. And the more we feel both on our way, on different places in the social system and environment, the better we can help one another. Because we have interest for another, we see the other's need, we develop compassion, empathy, and through this we get good ideas how to act and to make the place where we are to become a better place for us and for others. So individual health is a complex system. Mental health is the innerst core of our health and needs to be cared for every day by a little spiritual nutrition, by regular little meditations, by not losing contact with my innerst identity, truth, love, autonomy, search. We never have it full, but we can search for it. We can long for it. And that is already tremendously much. But through this mental striving, we develop a healthy soul, because our soul forces, thinking, feeling, and willing, are becoming more pure, more human. And that is emotionally health-giving. We feel much better in human relationships and in the relationship with ourselves when we are honest with ourselves and with others, and when we develop these qualities of love and autonomy, because they are not developing by their own. We need really to develop them by overcoming the not human or anti-social instincts and drives we all have. But without self-knowledge, I do not acknowledge these anti-human instincts I have. But on the other hand, when I acknowledge them and develop the energy to overcome them, then I can also bless all these negative human aspects, because they give me the possibility to humanize by overcoming them. And every one of us can only do this by his own. You know, the government tries by good rules, and also the religions by certain musts and take cares of, to support from outside the humanization. But in time of autonomy, like in our times, it is less and less accepted, because people want out of their own to learn how to do the good, and not because they are forced to follow certain ethical standards. So to discover this source of humanity within us is the most powerful resource of health through all the levels of our constitution. And it inspires us then for a healthy lifestyle, and it gives us more strength to care also for our physical body and its environment. So that is, in very short, a little bit about the conditions, how to reach individual health, and that there is a lot to study, and that everyone can really look, what is for me in this context a next possible step. But when we come to the community well-being, to the social well-being, then we have another threefold vision, because also the whole social environment, all our humanity needs to humanize more. You know, for me, this was such an eye-opener when I studied medicine and learned also a lot about chemistry and the realms of nature. We had to study botanics and zoology, and then to realize how perfect plants and animals are made by nature. And the question became bigger and bigger, why we as humans are not by nature perfect, why we are all incomplete. And that we need to care for health, that we need to care for social well-being, and that we are not able, like animals, to do all this by instinct, is really the riddle of our humanity. But on the other hand, it is the fundament of our dignity, because the evolution obviously wants us as humans to become self-completing beings. beings who have not the gift of humanity by nature and individual and social well-being by nature, but by our own striving and understanding and learning. And therefore, we may no wonder that it is worldwide so different how the governments, how economic life, how those who have the power in our environment or have duties on this and that field, that they are all not perfect, that many, many problems and side effects are coming up out of their actions, so that people can wake up and can realize, I need to help, I need to think, I cannot just follow authorities, they can err as me. So the whole modern democratic development is this wake up activity of the people, of the individuals, that they say, we need to come together, we need to discuss, we need really, you know, I live in Switzerland and there the folk, the people have the last decision, not the government. And if the government is doing something which is in the population of dislike, if they gather enough numbers, then they can stop certain indications and laws who did come top down. It is the farthest developed democracy worldwide, so far as I have learned. And even here in Switzerland, we experience so much need for change, for transformation, because, of course, Switzerland is also part of this global financial system and this power balance play worldwide. Yeah? And how to keep one country as much as possible on the humanization developmental path. Rudolf Steiner developed his social threefold order. And I really must say, I love this booklet on which you base right now your work, because it is short, it is clear, and it shows one central point. He really understood this beautiful central point of all the threefold social order. That threefold social order is not a system you can implement and then the social order is running. Rudolf Steiner even said about his beautiful threefold social order he developed during the First World War, when all this destruction, all this hunger, poverty, and disaster was in Europe. There he developed a healthy threefold social order and brought it to the German authorities. Unfortunately, they did not take it on, but they all got it. He tried really to engage himself on the political field, handing over his memorandum, handing over his ideas about social order, handing over how to make a peaceful human society and not prepare for a next war. But he said about his social order, if you take this as a theory, then it is less good than other theories. It is not a theory. It is not a system. It is not a program. But what is it? It is an ideal of humanizing humanity it is in a certain way the same what I tried to sketch briefly about the human healthy identity. If I do not identify myself with something invisible, like truth, love, freedom, why do I need to identify with something invisible? Because in the visible world, I appear incomplete. And only through an ideal of my becoming, I anticipate in thinking my future. But my future cannot yet be visible because I have to achieve it first. When I train 10 years to be a bit more honest, then people will realize, Michaela, she is quite an honest person. But without this activity, they never would say, maybe you can trust her, she is quite an honest person. You know, we have to do it in order to make it visible. But first we need to think it. Then we need to be engaged for it, to be excited about it. And only then it reaches our will that even by overcoming obstacles and counterforces, we then really do the good what we are burning for. So we need an invisible friend. We need a higher self, a higher identity to develop our true humanity. Our true humanity is an eternal spiritual being. And when we die, we reconnect with our human goal and we prepare for a next learning step, for a next incarnation. But in space and time, during our lifetime, we can only touch our eternal higher self, our divine inner core, by these beautiful life ideals. There we meet it. We can receive it in thinking, feeling, and willing. And the same is with the threefold social order for humanity. Also, humanity has an identity. And there, it is the other way around. That's interesting. In my individual, I have autonomy as the ideal of my will. And in the social well-being, threefold, humanity-oriented order, I need autonomy for my thinking, for my development. I need the conditions of autonomy in education. That every person meets conditions in school and university to bring together one's inner needs, one's inner purposes with the outer needs and the outer purposes, that not one is suppressing the other. Free spiritual life. And then again, love, democracy, this remains in the middle. A system of laws which is really equal for everyone in that way that we try to take serious all our co-fellows in nature and in humanity. That we meet them with the same respect, with this sense of dignity, that we are all part of a huge global family. That is love. And then on the will level, on the economic level, as Kelly said in her introduction, brotherhood, commitment, not freedom. You know, today we have the free market. This is the other way around. It is total ill to put freedom on the market. And scientific community and scientific rules to make indoctrinations, what has to be learned and what not, and what is scientifically based mainstream thinking and what not. You know, we live in an ill social community. And therefore we have an exaggerated bureaucracy. So the right sphere tries to cope with this ill economic and spiritual cultural life and has to make lots of rules that we do not research, which is too destructive for human lives or for the environment, and to bring the business life into certain benchmarks that it becomes not too egocentric and money-driven and profit-driven. And Rudolf Steiner saw this illness as the main cause, the main origin for the First World War. And he said, we will have one war after the other if we do not understand that this social order, how we deal with the cultural and the economic life in a way that we do not respect the individual development and the social well-being. If we don't respect that, then we will have one war after the other. And that is what we have. And he says we need to find the enemy within us in our antisocial drives, and then follow social ideals by overcoming this. And the social ideal is to create conditions for healthy individual development so that each child has the chance to reach his free decision for his own autonomy and this possibility to identify his or her life goal out of its own and not out of the pressure of the environment. And then to create social structures which are really integrating everybody, that there is a level of communication which is transparent, that everyone who wants to understand how decisions are made, that they are able to understand and that they know how they can positively influence the system, so that there is really justice among people and balance between rich and poor. It's all a matter of justice, a matter of laws. And then in the economic life, where egoism is most powerfully centered, there to cultivate brotherhood with the earth, with the supply chain management. Yeah, when Rudolf Steiner started to give esoteric exercises for the inner path, he started very simple. He started with concentration exercises. He said, start with, for example, looking at a little object like an enlightener of a candle, little piece of wood, and think about it and concentrate about it and realize in what context is this little object. And when you do this, you can take any little, tiny little object and realize finally it is part of the whole environment. Everything connects with everything. And you find this out through such a very simple exercise. And in the economic life, we realize, if not so many businesses are working so that I can buy what I need. So I'm so depending on all these people who support me through their products. If I don't feel this warmth of brotherhood, that there are people producing for me. And this wakes up, of course, a huge consciousness or question or desire. How can I now learn with my possibilities on my place to serve the needs of the others? To think in context and to look that when I produce something, it is produced with respect for those from whom I take something, that those whose products I buy can also live in dignity, and so on and so forth. And why do I like this little booklet? Because he understood this principle, social order, by Rudolf Steiner, his ideas and beautiful descriptions are only rightly understood if we understand them as leading stars for everyday life. I can organize my little family structure, my working place, along the threefold order to a big, big, big extent when I live these humanity ideals, when I burn for them. I have permanently ideas how to improve that. And if many, many people are starting to work out of this humanity, identity, innerst humanization resource, these social ideals, then it comes more and more together. And the beautiful thing is that more than 100 years after Rudolf Steiner brought these ideals into culture, and the first little institutions started to work, tried to work out of that, we have today so many initiatives, smaller, larger ones, who come to these ideas on very different pathways, very often even not knowing anything about Rudolf Steiner and his social work. But you know, the more people are thinking these ideals, loving these ideals, trying to act as much as possible out of them, these thoughts and feelings are living invisibly between us. Thinking is not nothing. A good wish is not nothing. These are powerful mental forces. So even if we now think together in this direction, I try to bring us in this little hour, then we produce good thoughts, good feelings, good intentions, which can then, so to say, drop in to someone who is asking himself, but what can I do to improve these negative situations I'm in? And all of a sudden he gets a good idea. Because to develop good ideas is as important as to do good deeds. Dear Kelly, this was an attempt to go into this huge theme about individual health and social well-being. And please let me know how we can now go on, if there is time for conversation. I did not look at my watch. I do it now. Just
Yeah.
1 hour.
Yes.
So bring us back into the time set and tell me what comes now next.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Michaela. I think that was a very excellent start for this evening. Last week, we had a small group study on philosophy of freedom. And it was like a initiation, I guess, for us, for us who is new to this Rudolf Steiner's work in freedom. And also in this book, Gary Lamb mentioned about philosophy of freedom. So I think it's probably, more we need to work harder and trying to understand the concept of what you mentioned about the thinking, as for individual. And I guess, are we right to say that in order for us to even understand and to think about this threefold social order, first, we must have this thinking faculty, develop this thinking faculty as an individual?
Yeah, that's a very good idea. And to take life as the leading star for the social. When you realize what you said right now, that you need to reflect what is the standing of my I am awareness in thinking. How do I deal with my thoughts? This is very important, as I mentioned, for individual health and for your own identity. And what is this identity finding in thinking, in your spiritual capacity? What is this for you? Life is for humanity, for the social. All Steiner's threefold social order, and also this little booklet of Gary Lamb. I'm really thankful that you brought me in connection with this. I didn't know it before you gave it to me, because he understood this crucial point, that when you have real interest for life, then the threefold social ideals are coming out of this concept of life. And to understand thinking and life, that is the two most inspirative themes or topics you can identify for individual and social well-being. To study the needs of life for everyone, healthy life, well-being in the social, and to study healthy thinking.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. We have some questions, quite a number of questions. I will read out some of the questions that probably we can explore together. First question that I have received is, dear Dr. Michaela, how do you respond to others that doesn't respect individual autonomy or even boundary? How to draw a healthy line from here instead of becoming antisocial?
Yeah, that is a very important question, because, as I mentioned, first we need self-knowledge. And self-knowledge is the precondition to understand others. The more you understand about yourself, the better you understand others. And the more you identify your own shadow sides, the better you can cope with the shadow sides of others. And therefore, Rudolf Steiner talks about three main antisocial drives. and to study them and to find them in oneself makes us able to cope with antisocial problems in the environment. And if you give me a little time, I could mention them, or it is an extra theme to talk about the antisocial drives. You need to say, because I would need some minutes to explain.
Yes. I think that will be very good, because we read a lot about this antisocial theme in Gary Lamb's book as well. So it would be great if you could bring some more insights.
Okay, so I try to focus to the essential. You know, we have an antisocial drive in our thinking, and that is very clear. You know, when we talk with one another and you have an excellent idea, then you want to convince your conversation partner that he thinks the same as you. And that is antisocial. Because you found this good idea on your way, and this is now exciting for you. And when you just want to implement this in another one who has not found this way by his own, then you make him depending and less himself. Then you want to make him a bit like you. And that is not social. So how to communicate, for example, in school, when we want to teach, or what I do now, I try to bring some things you asked me to talk about, to be very careful only to talk when someone is asking for. That is the first social attitude. To wait before you talk until you are asked. For example, when people say me, we would like to have a lecture from you, you know best what you want to talk about, then I say, no, I do not want to talk about anything. I'm not a missioner. But if you have a concrete question, then maybe I can serve that. So this is this training to overcome antisocial drive in thinking. But how to do this practically? Like this, that you raise questions to the other. You know, when you only wait until you are asked, then it can be that you can never talk because no one is asking you something. So when you want your students to learn something, then you can help them that they learn what you have learned on their own way when you raise good questions, so that through these questions, people are inspired to think about by their own, and then maybe they find on their own way, and through their questions, you then serve to the same truth you wanted to bring them. But then you have not harmed their autonomy, but you have found a brother or sister in spirit. Because there we are brothers and sisters in spirit when we tolerate that we give each person the possibility to find on their own way the truth. Therefore, I love so much this poem by Christian Morgenstern, who says, "Those who are looking for truth have to go alone. No one can be the companion of the other. But we can help one another to find the truth by being inspirators or listeners or having empathy and interest and raise good questions." So that is how we can overcome the antisocial drive and help the other, what Rudolf Steiner is recommending, to find the essential out of his own and to create conditions. And that is, for example, the whole Waldorf methodology, to create conditions so that the children can become as much as possible self-active and do even their duties out of their own interest, because they are so inspired by good questions or by the love for their teacher, and then they want to do it, and then it's social. Love is very social. If children do something out of love, that is social. If they do something out of fear or out of duty, that is, or for money, that is antisocial. And then we have an antisocial drive in feeling, and that is painful. Rudolf Steiner says very simple, when we feel about another person, we need to be aware that we mostly project our own feelings into the other, and that we live in illusions how the other honestly really is feeling himself. How often, I'm sure you all have made this experience, we are disappointed or disillusioned because people all of a sudden are behaving unexpected, different, that they do not meet our expectations. It's the most painful in partnerships. Now I see your true face. Something comes up unexpected, and I lived in illusions. But then Rudolf Steiner says we should praise this disillusionment because it shows us more what lives really in the other. It gives us the chance to develop more love because we know now more about what lives all in his or her soul. So to hold back projections and to have real interest that the other is he or she and is different from you, then you overcome this antisocial drive. For example, I experienced quite often, and I had really to learn how to cope with that, that people tell you something and you listen, and at the end you say friendly goodbye, and then they tell afterwards to other persons, Michaela Glockler thinks the same with me. But there was no discussion, no real question, how do you see this? Or I had no time to share this, and I said, I need first to think about it. I cannot respond right now. But we are so eager to connect with others and to bring them under our own feeling and opinion that we very often avoid to realize how antisocial these emotional projections are. So, to make it short, we need to fall in love with disillusionment about others and to live in this openness that we enjoy, that the other is not like us, and that we develop real love for the other, and not only for our own projection in the other. So many partnerships are a bit a mixture from self-love, because I love my loving connection with the other. But if this is really the other I love, I don't know. So this openness, this unconditional loving interest for the other, and that he is that he is different from us and is an individual, a unique personality, I am allowed to get to know more and more. That is a wonderful attitude to overcome this second antisocial drive. And the third antisocial drive is in will. And there Rudolf Steiner says very clearly, if we act, we can be sure others will be disappointed. Why? Because if something is done, those who would love to have included in this action start to criticize, why did they not ask me? This is incomplete, I know it better. Or they say, why this person is doing this? This should be done by someone else, or whatever. So there is an antisocial mood around actions, and it comes towards you by criticism, because people feel attacked by the way you did what you did. Even if you do not want to attack others, you do it. And very often you don't know what people are thinking about your actions, because they are polite, they do not want to touch, but behind the back they talk a lot about, yeah, that's how it is. And how to minimize the antisocial drive in will. That is this high culture of patience. Let what you want to do become mature. Keep it. Observe when is the right situation, that really the situation is calling for this action. Because if there is a burning need, then the people are happy if you do it. So to work and to let mature in patience helps that you find the right moment, the right situation, the right people to help you, and that you even talk with possible critical people. What do you think about that? I would love to do that. Do you have an idea how to optimize? So to place your actions in a situation in which it is needed and asked. Rudolf Steiner says beautifully, we need to find what we think and feel and what we want to do in such a way, or we need to bring what we think and feel and want to do in such a way that the call for this we want to do comes from the environment. Then it is healing and helpful. And when we push through with what we want to do, then we meet resistance and people experience us antisocial. It's very short, but I hope it makes a little sense to think further about it.
Yes, it is. So anyway, in any case, antisocial is also necessary, right?
You know, if we would not have antisocial drives, we could not become social. And when you want, no, really, when you want to avoid antisocial drives, then you lose your autonomy. Then you all only want to please others. And then you lose your autonomy. You become a total depending, nice behaving marionette in the social life. Do you understand what I mean?
Thank you so much. It's a long answer, but necessary.
You know, and it's this balance between adaptation,
yeah,
and standing against the rest of this world. Rudolf Steiner formulates this in Philosophy of Freedom very short. It's really a meditation about what we spoke. He says, nature is making out of us natural beings. The society is making out of us well-adapted, following rules beings. A free being, the human being, can only make him herself out of him herself. Nature is not able, it leaves us incomplete. The society does not want that we become autonomous. It wants us to do perfectly under control. So this third work we have to do out of our own, and this goes only by overcoming the antisocial and through error and overcoming error, through failures and how to learn out of them, you know. Why is to learn out of experience this bitter pathway of learning? Because that is so human. We learn out of our antisocial, destructive behaviors, and that we harm others, and that we have to see, it was me, it was not good. That is so painful. But when we learn out of that how to make it better, then it is a gift of heaven. Therefore, Rudolf Steiner said, the evil is not in the world that we do it. The evil is in the world that we wake up and learn about what is good. So we need it. You are really right, Kelly. We cannot avoid it. When we want individual health.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I have many more questions coming in, but there's one short question from someone from China, that why is human incomplete? And what causes the this incompletion? Yeah.
You know, when people started to think, this was in Europe, in ancient Greek, Platon and Aristotle, they discovered already, comparing humans with animals, that humans are incomplete and animals are complete. So this concept of the incompleteness is so old as individual thinking is. And why are we incomplete? When you study embryological development, for example, from all vertebrates, birds, cows, dogs, cats, pigs, they have their skeletal development in embryology, in their becoming. And then you see that what later becomes the wing of a bird is first a human hand. In the early bird embryological development, the birds have two hands like humans. And then afterwards, after a while, this is obliterating, this is growing longer, and at the end, you have the wing, and the hand can only do to move the wings of a bird. And the same with the forefoots of all the animals. First, they are looking like hands, and then they're becoming as they are. Animals are specializing by nature to certain actions, certain instincts, certain purposes, certain social behavior they cannot transform. Humans remain even physically, embryologically, embryonic. No one can see if my hand in the next moment would take a knife or would be very loving. My thoughts must give my hand the call for action, no instinct. We are incomplete because we shall, through our own self-thinking, achieving our completeness, so far as one lifetime allows this. And humanity goes through many, 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 many lifetimes. Therefore, the earth is changing and transformed by the humans, cultivated or not cultivated, destroyed, according to the steps of our development. And today we are in a critical period because autonomy is associated with egoism and all this antisocial. And therefore it is so important that we learn about our incompleteness and that we do not act out our lower instincts, drives and say, that is human, when I just do what I want. You know, that is anti-human. No animal behaves like that. When humans are living like animals, they are deep under animals because they behave not human. I hope it's clearer now.
Yeah, I hope that's clear too. Thank you. And yes, she replied, she said, thank you very much for your explanation. She said, is the greed, our greed, human greed, that caused the imperfection. Yeah. And yeah, so that's her understanding now. And another question, I'm combining two questions together. CS has asked that, you know, like in universe, like our galaxy, stars suggest that nothing is permanent. So things are constantly changing and disappearing. So the best of humanity's structure would also change by universal rhythm. Steiner's social structure would naturally disappear or is temporarily. Did Steiner speak about an ideal higher than humanized humanity, since this would change or disappear, as would the universe? And
yeah, that's a beautiful question. Rudolf Steiner wrote a wonderful book about this, and the name is Occult Science.
Occult Science.
And in this book, why occult? That means our whole world, this immense cosmos, is coming out of an origin where this cosmos was not yet material, was purely a place of creation, something. So he describes the emergence of the cosmos out of the spiritual, and the whole process of materialization as a long, 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 long history, ending up today where the earth and the cosmos are appearing really consisting out of matter and energy, but particularly matter. And when we then, this is of course a lot of natural science issue and astrophysics and so on, yeah, to study how energy and matter are working together and so on, and bringing all this about out of materialistic understanding. We study only the material side. Rudolf Steiner is studying the spiritual side. There is no matter without laws within, without meaning, without a process within, without history within, without purpose. So he brings to this spiritual, to this materialistic worldview of natural science, a spiritual cosmology, and is ending up this in anthroposophy, because what is anthroposophy? To understand what the human being is. And it's interesting that we as humans have both. We have a body which appears material, but our becoming future being, what I spoke about a little bit this evening, this is immaterial. It consists out of these beautiful ideals: truth, love, freedom, brotherhood, equality, and free creativity. You know, this is all invisible. We carry the spiritual invisible world in our thinking. You know, my husband passed away 3 years ago. I'm so connected in my thoughts and feelings with him, because thoughts and feelings are real inner experiences. It is not a cloudy nothing. It is, feelings are real connections, and thoughts are mental connections with invisible realities. So and that is the meaning of anthroposophy, so far I understand it, that I learn about my invisible higher being, which is not yet realized and radiating on earth, and that in me comes an old evolution to an end, ending up in hard matter and form, but can be transformed by my spiritual and emotional activity. So humanity is the place of change of the cosmos. In us, the development goes on. And while we are changing, dear, dear friends, the cosmos is changing. That we see the change everywhere is beautiful, but we should also see the need for us to co-change. If we do not transform and create our humanity and our social environment better and better and better, then the cosmos goes into a wrong direction. We can help that this change is to the well-being, and that matter can be transformed and spiritualized again. You know, it's now 100 years ago that Rudolf Steiner gave beautiful lectures for young people, the so-called youth course, October 22 in Stuttgart. And there, of course, all these young students, they wanted to know the meaning of life, and why was the First World War so horrible? Why are humans so bad? And what about me? You know, all these typical youth questions they had. And Rudolf Steiner said to them, how would you think if I could tell you the meaning of life and everything, how it should become, and then it's all perfect? Would you feel good? It is so good that you don't know, that you have to find out yourself, that you experience only when I develop when I transform myself, I'm really truly living and becoming more and more my own. We are developing beings, and we will not come in a dead-end paradise where no change is allowed anymore. That is not how the world is working. Therefore, I said, when we study our thinking and when we study life, then we come closer to individual and social well-being, because both fields, in both fields, we experience ourselves in change. And therefore, threefold order is not a system which you can design perfectly and then you have done it. No. It is inspiration for becoming more and more human, more and more healthy, more and more worthy to live for. It is a process. But because we live in this transformative processes, it is so important also to understand eternity, what is beyond change, by meeting beings. But in time and space, we see only the change. But when we meet the eternal constitution of the cosmos, and for example, thoughts are eternal. The thought of my identity is an invariant, it's not changing. But this is the eternal level of our existence, which goes beyond space and time. And we need both to make our life really to become fruitful.
Thanks very much. I think that kind of probably give us more to think, to develop more thinking into this this message that you just delivered. And one of the question that was raised, I think you have touched on that already, but the question is, how has Steiner's threefold social order developed, in different era? So is that like, and you mentioned that it's not a system, it's a process. Is that even a question, that this is this?
Yeah. He did not find the partners, because when you are an inspirator like Rudolf Steiner was, he could talk about his ideas because he was asked and invited. He did a lot of talking with co-workers, with entrepreneurs, but they were not yet ready to really understand the essence. So there were only small starts. For example, Vilida, as the producer of remedies, was working along these rules, and the Waldorf education was done out of this spirit. So what Rudolf Steiner could find was the teachers who really wanted to do such a school in which free spiritual life and self-identification and finding one's freedom and autonomy can be reached. That there he was successful. And he was successful with agriculture. That one is not primarily caring for money, but primarily healing the earth and raising healthy plants. It's biodynamic is not profit-oriented. It is love to earth-oriented. And the same with the remedy producers. There were people who really understood. And also in medicine, he inspired a picture of a medical doctor who is not working profit-oriented, but patient-oriented. So that we have so many anthroposophic initiatives on all fields of life, and they are now worldwide active. And in Egypt, for example, they cultivate thousands and thousands of hectare desert and make it woods and agriculture fields, meanwhile seen and respected even by the government in Egypt. And people are coming from all over the world to study this system of second farm. That shows how vivid these thoughts are if they really are understood and living in able people. For example, the second farm was launched by one person. He was a pharmacist coming out of a rich Egypt family, sponsored to study in Austria. There he met his wife and he met anthroposophy. He studied philosophy of freedom, woke up, and he said, what can I do for my country, which is so desperate, poor, and in need? And he decided to use all the money he had and bought a huge piece of desert, went home to Egypt, and together with the doctor, Hans Werner, who is still alive, he formed his Hans Werner, his medical doctor, anthroposophic doctor, he formed a non-profit organization to support him in Egypt, to draw money, to support this absolutely needy. If you have only a piece of desert, you need everything. And who pays for that? All his money went into the desert to buy it. So there were a lot of other people in Germany sponsoring this. And now it is a flourishing entrepreneurship with big agriculture, with lots of manufacturing to make products, and lots of money comes now back into the whole business. And they have since 10 years their own university with 4,000 students learning all this healthy business for all Egypt. They come from all over Egypt to this university. And they have, of course, a Muslim Waldorf school, beautiful Muslim Waldorf school, where they have a weekly festival on Friday to honor the Prophet. And it is marvelous. One person in which head, heart, and hand landed these productive leading stars for social well-being. So his concepts, Steiner's concepts, are alive because thoughts are living entities, and you connect with such a good spirit when you let land such a good idea in your own thinking and in your own heart, such good feelings and love for your work. And then you feel such a big energy to find ways how to realize it. Every person is a wonder of possibilities if we reach out and go beyond our becoming so far.
That was a very, very good message. Huh? Every person is a wonder of possibilities. So there is hope in everyone. and and lots of positivity somebody asked a question: how do we encourage others to be thinking about other people's true needs, moving towards an associative path?
Yeah, very good question. First, we need to empower and encourage ourselves. And there is a modern attitude that, we all want a change towards the better. But the first thought is that the government and the authorities should do that. They have the money, they have the power, and I'm so short with money and so powerless. But then we realize the authorities are even going into a wrong direction. So maybe it needs me. And then to start first with your potentials you have and try to broaden and to enlarge them. And through this engagement, when others are seeing that you are excited and active, then they will ask. And then you can share. And then maybe you even can give them little tasks and little ideas what they can also do and become partner or co-worker. So Rudolf Steiner says the good cannot be organized. It must be associated. It comes through human connections. When people experience your excitement, then they feel a bit stimulated and they want to know and they want to be part of. So you can associate young people to cooperate with you, but not in talking with them. Because, humanity is in development, and people today, also the younger ones, they feel deep within them, mostly unconscious, I need to find my own way, and I will not follow someone else. Therefore, if you say you should do, or that is good, they say, yes, then do it. We cannot inspire them. We can only give ourselves a good example which invites the others to associate, because then the will comes from them. They want then to associate. They have then questions. Or as I said, in regard the antisocial drives, you can raise questions. Why do you not come with me? I would love to take you with you, just to have a look. Yeah, we can raise questions, we can invite, but the most, it's at least my experience, the most successful invitation is the good example, that you just do it. Because this becomes visible, and if it's good what you are doing, then it is attracting good people. And then you can help them also with your expertise to move on faster, because we can learn so much from one another when we support one another in our best goals and intentions.
Love in action. So this is, I think that kind of sums it all for tonight, right? So it's like, whatever that we wish to see, any changes that we wish to see be it in others, in our partners, or in our environment. So the most important steps to do is to act on this ourselves. Yeah. And must do it happily. And with a lot of, I guess, freedom in a way, like we are doing it out of our own will. And that would, possibly brings interest, from others. And they create some curiosity in others. Yeah. And that could transform into will coming from themselves as well. So that's how the whole thing can be, the transformation could happen. Thank you. Yeah.
You know, we close with Kongsi, Kelly. The transformation can happen through imitation when you just copy Sekhem. You imitate. You have a good example. That's a beautiful way of learning to visit Sekhem and to talk with the people and to see, wow, maybe I can do the same with my possibilities. The second is to really wake up for all the problematic experiences of today. You know, the suffering of nature and of so many humans of today is a call to learn out of experience and to say, we cannot continue like this. We need to wake up. And then we ask for insight. And then anthroposophy can help through excellent concepts and ideas.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Michaela. I remember a story that you shared with us before in IPMT about you were asking your father why he chose a path that is so difficult. And that was a beautiful story. And then you mentioned about how you ended up in anthroposophy again. So yeah, I think
and he always said, Kelly, if someone comes who is doing my job better, I immediately go and look for something else to do.
yes.
Yeah. He was always aware the best possible should be done, but I cannot wait until this beautiful person is coming. So I start at least so far as I come. And that's also something I learned. What I was expecting, I could draw from others, I had to do and to find by my own.
Like how you hold a business class, the business workshop, until Alex came along.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for bringing all this insight. I know it's 2 hours is too short, you know, to talk about something so, I mean, such a long path to go. But I think you brought us, especially, I mean, bring to me at least that drive that, you know, we can do something, we can act on it, and then we see what happened, and then we adjust. And then
yeah, and when you take the time to share with one another what you would love to do, you know, if you share your own visions, longings, and then if you do this, you find all of a sudden possibilities how to support one another to come to more action than you thought before. It's so magic when we associate, when we connect, when we take one another serious, when we have interest in one another and not only for our own issues. Yeah, it's so inspiring. So I really wish you good continuation also for your academy. I find it exciting that you started that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of people that we initiated together were coming together from the IPMT's participants. So that is really, you know, something that I guess that is a realization of an intention that all of us had, is to have a platform that we can actually realize it. So
yeah. Wonderful.
And thank you so much for your guidance. Yeah, and
you're very welcome.
And for the rest of our learning, I just like to make an announcement for our coming another event that we would have Dr. Michaela with us. So I would just share a screen of this coming event that would happen on the 12th and the 13th of November. And we have Dr. Michaela, who will be our key speaker, together with Mr. Rolf Heine. Mr. Rolf Heine, he's actually a professional nurse, and now he's based in Switzerland, in Gutianum, in the medical section of Anthroposophic Center. He will also be our other key speaker. And we have two supporting contributors, Dr. Joanne On and Mr. Chong Siu Ho. Dr. Joanne is probably not unfamiliar to many. She has been, she was the person who brought, initiated this IPMT and Colisco in Malaysia. And also we have Siu Ho. Siu Ho is a youth, yeah. So Dr. Michaela talked about the Steiner's lecture with the youth. That sounds really exciting because we have quite a number of youth in Kongsi Cooperative. Siu Ho is one, and Siu Ho is actually instrumental in setting the stage, yeah, for this co-op to happen. And he joined us. He joined the co-op team since the very beginning of the idea initiation time, since June last year, and has been working on this co-op initiative very dedicatedly, and and I think there is a lot of insights from him as well through this experience. So we have invited him to share his this cooperative journey during this conference. And we have also organized a preview by Dr. Joanne. Okay, Dr. Joanne is the one who bring this question to Dr. Michaela about traumatic experience, how we transform a traumatic experience or experiences to our will, yeah, that we can act on and develop ourselves. So this team is called Ways to Process and Heal Traumatic Experiences. How do we collect this gift, yeah, in this traumatic experiences? So this is the hope, the wish, or the intention for this conference is we have a preview this coming Friday to bring a little bit more story behind the insights, yeah, behind why this team and why now. Yeah, because we have all experienced, have this past 2 years and 2 to 3 years of experience of lockdown, movement controls, and a lot of new experiences that to some are traumatic. And this conference, yeah, we hope this is the second anthroposophic conference for Malaysia. The first one was last year, and this year we have this team called Ways to Process and Heal Traumatic Experiences. And we would like to invite those who are online now to join us on this Friday to understand the intention behind this conference. And yeah, we like to invite all of you to come on board in November. Yeah. So with that, I will end today's sharing with a closing verse. A healthy social life is found only when, in the mirror of each soul, the whole community finds its reflection, and when, in the whole community, the virtue of each one is living. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.